Josh Taylor was repairing damage with his hands when he realized he'd rather be causing destruction with his fists. I have always been interested in engines, so I went to college after school and I started doing an apprenticeship to be a mechanic, he remembers. But, I just found it really boring. I wanted to get stuck into the engines and I was going a step back doing all the basic stuff. I thought, this isn't for me, standing in a freezing cold garage wearing overalls changing tires and doing oil changes. A decade on, the Scottish fighter is sitting topless outside a coffee shop, soaking up the South London sun and recalling his route to the cusp of a world title. The self-titled Tartan Tornado is more than 330 miles from Prestonpans, the fishing town to the east of Edinburgh where his journey began. But this is the fighter's home now. Taylor lives in London, not far from McGuigan's gym in Wandsworth, where he and coach Shane McGuigan are preparing for the latest challenge of his burgeoning career. After 12 uninterrupted victories, the 27-year-old announced on Thursday that he would fight former world champion Viktor Postol in Glasgow in June. It's a huge step up for the southpaw, who has been managed by Barry McGuigan and promoted by Cyclone Promotions since his professional debut in 2015. A risk? Certainly, but the rewards are obvious. Victory over the experienced Ukrainian would put him first in line for a shot at the WBC World Super Lightweight title. It's been a stunning rise for a fighter who didn't box until his mid-teens and who counts superbike riders Valentino Rossi, Steve Hislop and Neil Mackenzie among his childhood heroes. As a kid growing up, I was into motorbikes, he tells Sportsmill. I've had them since I was about 5 years old. But he's never been a stranger to a scrap. I've always been a wee bit of a fighter since I was a kid. I never caused any trouble or fights in my life, but I've always been a wee scrapper, he says. I was always the small guy in the playground, but I'd always find myself in fights. Not through anything bad, just kids being kids, boys being boys. I was always the smaller guy, but I always found a way to win. From the age of 5, Taylor channeled his fighting spirit through Taekwondo. And throughout his youth he was a jack of all trades. I played every sport as a kid and everything I did I was pretty good at, to be honest. I never really found a sport I was crap at. Despite Taylor's history with combat sports, however, it was golf that almost cost him his career and his life when he was around 10. I was in the park with my cousin and I was standing behind her, trying to get to hit the ball better, he remembers. She cracked me in the face with her golf club, smashing my jaw to places. I had to have plastic surgery. It was horrific. The skin was all cracked, you could see my teeth and my bones through the skin. I never got knocked out though. Did that not put him off being hit in the face for a living? No, I never played golf again. It was safer going to boxing, he jokes. I was in hospital for about 6 weeks. The side of my face had to be reconstructed and I had to be fed through a straw for months. I was eating chicken soup, tomato soup and cheesy Wotsits for about 6 months. It wasn't the best, but it's a good experience, isn't it? Luckily, the only lasting damage is a horseshoe-shaped scar on his left cheek. The doctors said I was very lucky because it hit me right in the middle of the face. If it hit me an inch higher, I could have died because it could have hit my temple. And if it was an inch lower it could have hit all the nerves and I'd have been paralyzed. So I was very, very lucky. The week after it happened to me, there was a kid in the next town up. My mom and dad knew the parents, and it happened to him. It hit him in the head and he died, so I was very lucky. Taylor has made the most of his escape. He turned to boxing at 15 for a change in training and his idol suddenly became Alex Arthur, Scotland's former world title challenger who trained at Edinburgh's Meadowbank Sports Centre, where Taylor's mother worked. His progress was rapid and thoughts of engines, and everything else, were soon put to one side for good. He was narrowly beaten by the Scottish champion in his first ever contest and earned selection for the 2008 Commonwealth Youth Games in India only 2 years after first lacing up gloves. He came back with a bronze medal but with an axe to grind after his semi-final was stopped on account of a bleeding nose. I took my head guard off and threw it at the referee, he remembers. I've always been a bad loser at kid. Even as a kid, if my mum and dad beat me at snakes and ladders, the whole thing would go up in the air. I just wanted to win everything. It's a trait that lingers. Bad decisions and bad tempers feature throughout his amateur career and our conversation. For all his success since turning over, the 27-year-old has never forgotten perceived robberies he has suffered over the past decade. But nor has he let memories of the good times fade. 2 years on from missing out on a medal at London 2012, Taylor's unpaid career reached a crescendo at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. It was like I was the poster boy of Scottish boxing, he remembers. I was going there with the hopes of a nation. 5 victories later, he was the country's golden boy. To stand on top of the podium and sing Flower of Scotland in front of 10,000 Scottish people at the Hydro was amazing, he recalls. It's going to be very hard to top that, even as a professional. Like Anthony Joshua and co before him, the medal made him hot property, But there was only direction he wanted to go in. His prayers were answered when he received a phone call on the way to the 2014 Boxing Writers Club dinner in London, where he won Amateur Boxer of the Year. It was a withheld number, and I don't usually like answering withheld numbers because it's usually my pals or someone doing a prank call or a call center. I usually leave it thinking, if they want to speak to me, they'll leave a message. Taylor remembers. But my dad said, answer it. You don't know who it's going to be. He knew who he wanted to be. And employing a convincing Northern Irish accent, Taylor remembers, I got up and walked through to the other carriage and heard, "Hello Josh, it's Barry McGuigan here." I was gobsmacked, my jaw dropped and I sat down. The former world champion asked to meet him at the dinner to discuss turning professional. I played it cool on the phone, saying, yeah, okay, no worries Barry, I'll see you there. But, I put the phone down and was grinning like a Cheshire cat, cheek to cheek. I bounced through the other carriage to my dad. I was cheesing. That was my mind made up. 12 fights and 12 victories later, it's a relationship that is flourishing. In only 3 years, Taylor has fought in Las Vegas, Texas and New York. He has stopped one former world champion, Miguel Vasquez, and humiliated O'Hara Davis in a domestic grudge match. He is now following in the footsteps of Arthur and Ricky Burns in carrying the torch north of the border. Albeit reluctantly. I'm not interested in being the beacon or poster boy or golden boy of Scotland. I just want to be world champion and be the best I can be, he insists. Burns is the first Scottish three-weight world champion. That's absolutely brilliant. I don't want to compare myself with him. I'm not in the game to do better than him or outdo him. I'm proud of what he's done. I just want to be the best I can be. That's my motivation. Beat Postol in June, and Taylor knows he's one fight away from finally swapping worn tires for world titles for good.